Spartans! What is your profession?
Hello and welcome to KuziCast. I'm your host, Mr. Kuzi. Today, I cannot even begin to express how lucky and honored I am to be able to bring you a very special guest for all my Bangladeshi Spartans, DCEU fans, and cinephiles. Our guest today has been an actor, stunt coordinator, and stunt performer in Hollywood for over 2 decades, closing in on his third. The man who myself and many in the Release the Snyder Cut movement have aptly dubbed as the Living Cowl, arguably responsible for giving us the greatest Batman action sequence in the history of Batman. I give you Mr. Richard Cetrone. Hello, Richard. How are you?
Hey, Alex, I'm great. Thanks.
Thank you for coming on this little show across the ocean today. How are you doing? How's your family?
I'm good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Everything's going well. We're doing good with the with staying in the house and keeping our social distancing and stuff. And so far so good. Hopefully this thing will die out quick. Not only in the U.S. but all the way around the world, and things will get back to normal. That'd be really great.
All right. Well, also belated happy birthday. I'm guessing on the 13th of July was your birthday.
It was. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So here right now, we're looking at your IMDb page, and it says you started, your first movie was Three Ninjas in 1993. What made you want to be a stunt actor performer, and how did you get into this business?
Well, I've been a pretty physical person my whole life. I grew up playing American football and hockey and basketball, and I always enjoyed the contact and the physicality of sports. And I got into martial arts probably when I was about 16. I just started training on my own because I found some some books on Bruce Lee in the bookstore. Because at that time there was no internet and there's no YouTube. Would have been great if there was, but so you had to run out to bookstores and drive all over the place and look for things and find them. So I found these books on Bruce Lee, and I was really captivated by his, not only by his abilities, but by his martial art philosophy. Really captured my attention.
Jeet Kune Do, right? His martial art philosophy was called Jeet Kune Do, I believe.
Exactly.
Right.
So at that point, I started training myself because there was no one in I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There was no one there that taught that. So I made it a mission to move across the country to California and study under Bruce Lee's protege, a man by the name of Dan Inosanto, who is he's very well respected in the martial arts circle, and an amazing person too. So I did that, and then through the process of learning under him, I met some people there that became lifelong friends, and a real good friend of mine I met in class is Damon Caro.
Yes, Mr. Damon Caro, your coworker.
Yep, and Damon Caro, he was the stunt coordinator of BVS and did a lot of the fight choreography for it. And it was he and Zack have the final say on the fight choreography.
Right.
So I met him probably in 1987, 88, around there.
Yeah, 1 year before I was born.
Okay. Yeah, I'm dating myself. So we hit it off right away. We've been training partners for a long, long time. And we used to talk about, getting into stunts, and because we liked the possibility of being able to get really creative with our martial arts that we learned under Guru Dan. The really one of the really great things about the academy that he teaches at is that he has a vast array of martial arts knowledge, and he's really kind enough to share that with his students, and it was amazing training. We're very anybody who comes out of the academy is usually pretty well-rounded martial artist. So we used to talk about that, and we we got opportunities there because they would, like, producers would call Guru Dan and ask, hey, do you have any students that could come down and do background work for us? And then he would always give the jobs, those type of jobs, to me, Damon, and another of our friends who happens to be a guy by the name of Chad Stahelski,
right?
Who, if you know those John Wick movies, Chad directs those movies.
Wow.
So we all trained together and came up together. So and we were three of probably his better students, I would say, as far as skill at that time.
Your own Trinity. It's like your own version of Trinity. You, Mr. Damon, and your other friend.
At that time we were really, really close, all three of us. And so that's how we first started thinking about it. And then we just started training on our own. Then we met some stunt guys through martial arts and started training with them and learning things, how to fall, how to get learn air sense, and how to do different skills for stunts. And then you just get opportunities, and if you keep doing a good job, and then you get more opportunities, and you meet people, and then before you know it, you're a working stuntman. And that was something that was kind of like a dream to do that, to get into Hollywood and do that and make a career of it.
Yeah, it's very lucky to be able to do what you love with the passion and have a career based off of it. So So, I mean, I have put up a little collage of your career over the years, and also like the image of your IMDb. And, in a sense, you have lived the ultimate fan dream. You have, like, in terms of pop culture, you have not only been Batman, you have been Iron Man, you've been a werewolf twice in the Underworld franchise, and you've worked in the Blade franchise. I mean, you have lived it. Like every fanboy's dream, you have lived it. So what sort of discipline do you maintain in your daily life, physically and mentally, to perform in so many movies, in so many varied characters, and in TV shows? Like, how do you get into that?
Well, it is a discipline. You use the perfect word, and that's the thing that really separates, I think, people when they're trying to achieve a goal. Because if you don't have the discipline, you make it much harder on yourself to achieve whatever it is you're going for. So I can tell you now, and throughout my career, I have a disciplined diet. I have a disciplined training schedule, where I will make sure that I'm working out 5 days a week. If something happens, because I give myself the weekends off,
Right.
And then I might do some martial arts training. But as far as training, as far as building my body and maintaining my body, I do that 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And if I skip Friday for some reason because I had an appointment or something I had to do, then I make sure I make it up on Saturday or Sunday. So that's that discipline. You have to be serious about it. And I trained in, I wanted to make myself a better stuntman and a better performer. So I took, probably about 4 or 5 years of acting classes. Whenever I wasn't working, I would take acting classes, and I went to a couple of different schools in Los Angeles to make myself a better performer. And it was well worth it. And I think it was a very important and a good decision that I made. So I did that. That was part of, just having a goal in mind, and then just doing everything that you can to achieve that goal. And then, it's really, it's like, a lot of times people join a gym, they make a New Year's resolution, they join a gym, and then by by March they're not even going anymore. And that's, it's tough. It's really hard. It's tough to do because there's so many things in life that you could be doing. You have a lot of choices, and it's fun sometimes just to relax on the couch and just watch movies. And I like to do that too. I have a lot of downtime where I love to do that kind of thing. But you can't forget what your goal is. If you want to achieve it, you have to be consistent. Consistency, I think, is huge.
And like one of my earliest memories of you, like you, especially yourself as an individual, not as just a stunt performer, was in the movie Underworld when I saw it when I was much younger, the first one. And when Lucian comes back to the lichen lair and we see like two lichens going at each other, and then Lucian shouts and commands everyone to calm down, and then I see what the bigger lichen transform back, and that was you standing on the left side of the screen, in all your form. And that vivid image has been stuck with me for a very long time. I'm also a huge Underworld fan, so that was one of my earliest memories of seeing you on screen. So, with Hollywood has evolved and changed over the years, has the industry acknowledged the brave stunt performers and actors and teams who risk their lives to bring the cinematic magic on screen that we have been seeing? And is the industry more supportive and safe for the performers such as yourself now?
Yeah, I think it is. I think they have more and more over the years, because there was a time, I've only been in working in movies since around '92 is when I really first got my start. So I don't go back to the '70s or '50s, of course. So I can only speak from what I've seen, and I've seen a definite change in the way we are perceived. There was one time when we were just perceived as people that could hit the ground and do some fights, and then we have no creative abilities as far as anything else that we can add to the film, which is absolutely not true, as you see these days. David Leitch is another person that trained at the same academy that I trained at, and he was a stunt man for years, and now he's a really great director. So now we are getting more opportunities, and I think Hollywood is recognizing that. But it's been a process. It's been a slow process, and the actors have helped as well, because it seems like most actors are behind us, getting more recognition. But the studios, it's like I said, it's a very slow process with them. It is better, but we still have ways to go, in my opinion. I mean, I think that it's really a travesty that we are not able to have a chance to win an Oscar.
Yeah, there has been like a lot of buzz going around in Twitter and in the media that the stunt performer, like the Oscars should have a category for the brave men and women who risk their lives and perform these stunts for the directors and for the narrative reasons.
Yeah, I think so, and I think a lot of people are realizing that. I know that a lot of the actors have voiced that as well, that they're behind us. But so far, nothing has happened, and it is necessary, because we're basically the only major part of the filmmaking process that isn't involved in the Oscars.
Exactly. Because if you weren't there, a lot of actors would have very short careers. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And look at the movies too. Look at Fury Road. Fury Road was nominated for Best Picture. Now you take all the stunts out of Fury Road. Do you think it's nominated for Best Picture? No. No way.
So we're a very important part of the filmmaking process, and I think it's just fair that we be eligible. When it comes time to vote on the Oscars, I think it's just fair that we have a category.
Definitely, I genuinely agree, and many of my viewers and fellow Spartans and all the fans and everyone who enjoy movies in general would agree that it's high time the Academy starts acknowledging the brave stunt actors and performers such as yourself and your co-workers who risk their lives and give us the movie magic that impresses us and makes them billions and billions of dollars. So Richard, as you can hear in my voice, viewers, I'm so nervous. I am literally talking to Batman. So this is the fanboy in me that's gonna come out. And so, when did you meet Zack, and what were your initial thoughts after meeting him about him?
I met Zach, I believe the first time was on a shooting range.
Wow.
We were target practicing, and Damon Caro and I were target practicing,
Mm-hmm.
and Zach and another friend of ours who was one of the co-writers of 300, I believe he was, I'm pretty sure, Kurt Johnstad.
Mm-hmm.
They were target shooting, and we were in the same area, so they came over to hang out with us a little bit, and that was the first time I had met him, but I got to know him.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, we would have little things going on, and I'd be a part of it, and I got to know him better. And it really struck me how, first of all, how intelligent he is,
Mm-hmm.
creative he is,
Mm-hmm.
and how funny that guy is. That guy, I'm telling you, Zack Snyder could be a professional comedian. I'm not even kidding.
I would love to
You-
see Zack do a
Oh,
stand-up special.
you have to see him. Like you have like he just captivates a room. I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
When we were working on Army of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
we went out to dinner, and Zach was there, and Debbie was there, Wes was there, and executives from Netflix were there, and some of the actors were there as well.
Right.
And like when he starts talking about a subject, I mean, he literally holds court. Like he's just
Mm-hmm.
everybody's just captivated listening to him. Like he's got so much knowledge, he has charisma, and he's charming. He's just a great guy. Now you can tell by the way I talk about him, he's obviously
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite people, and absolutely my favorite director to work for. I would always work for Zach. I could be 80 years old and he could call me and say, hey, I need an old man to sit on a park bench and have a heart attack and fall over on his face. I'm like, oh, I'll be there. I'll do it.
Wow.
I mean, anytime he wants me on a film, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. It could be the smallest part or the biggest part or whatever. I'll be there for him, because I really, I really feel, strongly about him. He's a great person. He's just one of those guys that I've seen him through some really stressful times, and he deals with it. He doesn't take it out on anyone else. Whenever stressful situations come up, he's always a gentleman. He's always funny. He enjoys the process. He gets it. He understands how lucky we are to be doing what we're doing,
Yes.
and he's a joy to be around. And his sets are always really fun, to be around. He's hardworking, of course, but he understands too that it's a movie. He's going to do the best he can. We're all going to give it 100%, but he's not going to make it like it's a concentration camp. It's a movie, and he has fun doing the process. So yeah, he's just a great guy. I could spend the whole podcast talking about how great Zack Snyder is. He's
And
he's awesome.
and he seems like a very humble and kind human being as well. Like I only seen
Yeah.
him in the Snyder Con with you and everybody else, with Larry Fong. You guys were sitting. I'm from Bangladesh, so it's like across the ocean. But even then, when I've seen him in the interviews and his Vero posts, or however he, how he talks to everyone and how he addresses people, even through his video messages, it seems he's a very humble, down to earth person.
Yes, he is. He doesn't fit. If you would look at like what some people think the classic Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
celebrity is
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying everybody's like that, because they're
No, no,
not.
no, no,
But
no,
he definitely is not. He doesn't fit that at all. He's very down to earth. He's a very nice guy. He always has time for his fans. I remember an event we did, and afterwards there were so many people want autographs, and he had to get up early and do some scouts the next morning in New Jersey and fly to New Jersey, and it didn't matter. He stayed there all night. I think we ended up getting out of there around 1 a.m. and he made sure everybody had an autograph that wanted one.
Wow.
So Yeah, he's a tremendous person.
Wow. Wow. That's just amazing. I mean, the friendship and the collaboration and the co-working, everything. Like the relationship you two have is just something beautiful, and it genuinely shows that you guys are genuinely good friends. So you have worked with Zack in all of his movies and have given us some of the most spectacular visual action choreography ever seen, starting from Dawn of the Dead, 300, Watchmen, Sucker Punch, Man of Steel, BVS. Soon we will see Army of the Dead and hopefully Zack Snyder's Justice League next year when it comes out. So when it comes to designing and performing those action sequences and set pieces and the choreography and the camera placements, like how does that come about? How do you go about it? Because we have seen some of the BTS you and your team have shared for BVS and for Zack Snyder's Justice League. So how does that work? Where does it start and from start to finish, how does it work?
Well, Zach, of course, has the final say on all that, and he understands and he shoots action as well as anyone. I mean, he's really good at it. But Damon Caro is the guy who calls the shots on that stuff. He'll put a team together, and he'll get one or two fight choreographers in, and they'll work together. And sometimes they work with the stunt team as well, and they shoot ideas back and forth. And those guys will decide what they think looks good and what they think Damon will like, and then everybody put it together, and we perform it, and then we show it to Damon. And Damon says, I'd rather do this here and I'd rather do that. And he switches things up a little bit the way he likes them. He'll add some things that he wants he wants to see in there, because Damon's got an amazing eye. I've never worked with anyone who can see things the way he does. I mean, you do the slightest thing wrong, he sees it. He knows it. And I've joked about this before, that if you're a stunt performer and you can do a good job for Damon, you can do a good job for anyone. He's great. It's great working with him because he holds you to a very, very high level. So from that point on, if Damon okays it, then he shows it to Zack, and more often than not, Zack is like, "Yep, that's great," because Damon and Zack have worked together, in all those movies. All those movies you mentioned, Damon and Zack have worked together, so they know, Damon knows what Zack likes, and Zack trusts Damon, and most of the time there's very little changes. Only if Zack thinks of something that he would like differently, and then he'll want to change it, ask Damon to change it. But I did work. There was one film that I did work, because I don't do a lot of the fight choreography on Zack's films. That's mostly Damon and guys from our team that he'll choose. Right. But on Watchmen, I did. Damon and I put the opening fight scene together.
Right. And you were the masked assailant. You were the masked guy who was attacking the comedian.
Yep. I was doubling Ozymandias on that. So, and that was real special, for me, because I
must say that sequence, that opening sequence, is just, it's like hearing Beethoven's music. At the same time, it's so violent and so gritty. It's just visually spectacular what you designed.
Yeah. Thank you. Damon. Like I said, he's the boss on that stuff, and he's just really super talented guy, and he knows what fans like, and he's into the comic book lore like I am. It's very important to him, that to stay true to the comics as it is Zack. So that was something that we really put a lot of work. We do on everything, but right. We wanted this guy to have a real specific style, because he was looked at, like in the comics, he's looked at as he's the fastest man in
the
the world.
He's the smartest. He's like the perfect human being.
Yeah, he's the perfect superhero or perfect human being, exactly. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that was portrayed in that opening fight, especially.
Yeah, it's like Ozymandias was like Lex Luthor and Batman in one.
Yeah.
So he had the best of both worlds, and you had to portray that on screen. And I must say, I mean, I watched Watchmen, like the director's cut, like a lot of times, and every time that opening sequence, when I introduce it to any of my friends who are not comic book fans or anything, they just like that they get flabbergasted, like they are so wowed just by that opening sequence. So
Oh, that's
yeah, so it just goes to show, like, the amount of work, like how much people appreciate, what you do, what you and your team do. So just interjecting a small question, when you first saw the bat suit and the first time you put it on, how did you feel?
oh man, I remember it perfectly. The first time I had a chance to really put it on and move around, and we were in Detroit. We
Mm-hmm.
hadn't started shooting yet,
Mm-hmm.
and we were at a run like an old building, rundown building. I think it used to be a car dealership.
Right.
I'm pretty sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it was abandoned building, and it was freezing outside. And I put the bat suit on because Zack wanted to get some shots, of me in it. And I mean, it was seriously magical. Isn't even an over exaggeration. It was amazing. I mean, it was, because this is a character that I've wanted to play forever since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Batman was my favorite superhero since I was 5 years old. I used to watch the show all the time when I was little. And I loved it, and I always wanted a bat suit when I was little. And then when I got into stunts, I always wanted to double bat, have a chance to do it. And I really got to the point where I probably thought I probably am not going to be able to get a chance to do it. But I used to sit in the theater and watch the Michael Keaton movies and Christian Bale and just like dream of being able to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so excited to be in that suit, and it was freezing. And Zach kept asking me, he's like, "Rich, are you okay? It's really cold outside. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Zach, honestly, I don't even feel it. Like, I'm so excited right now.
I'm
Like,
Batman right now. Nothing bothers me.
yeah, yeah, I'm like, this is awesome. And I'd be standing, I go, look at my shadow, look at my shadow. I look like I'm the bat, and and he's like, yeah. He goes, yeah. Zach is just excited about this stuff, as I do, So I was so excited, so happy, that whole job,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it was amazing. Every minute of it was amazing. I loved every minute. It was a very, very tough physical job,
Mm-hmm.
but I loved every minute of it.
Right. Okay. Did Zach ever want to like? Did he ever try put on the bat suit?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
But not that I know of. I not that I know of. I
Mm.
know that Gao put the cow
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
while
We've
we were
seen the
in
picture.
Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember doing that while we were filming Justice League. Zach did wear my boots on his hands.
Mm.
I wonder why would he do that? That's weird. Well, there was a tight shot
Mm-hmm.
of Batman working the pedals in the Batmobile, and I think just so he could get it exactly the way he wanted, he figured the easiest way would you can only see the boots, you can't see anything else, so he
Mm.
slipped his hands into the boots and he's working
Right. The
the pedals.
pedals. Right.
He
Right.
wanted for the shot.
Mm.
So yeah, that if you see that in Batman versus Superman, there's a good chance that's Zack Snyder doing that.
Yeah, it's like even in that GQ interview with the Gerard Butler, even he said that while he was working on 300 in the final shot when he's meant to throw the spear and hit Xerxes, as you guys were filming it, he couldn't hit the mark. And he was having problem, throwing the spear. And then Zach is like, "Hold on, give it to me," and he does it in one go. So
Yeah.
just like you said, like it was Zach himself is not only physically very, able to perform these things that he himself visions.
hmm Yeah, for sure. Zach is a really, really good athlete, and I think I told that story. I think it's somewhere out there, but I actually told that story at an event we had,
Mm-hmm.
and and then Zach said, yeah, and he said, yeah, Jerry was talking about it on a talk show,
Mm-hmm.
as well,
Right.
and yeah, so yeah, that was impressive. The stunt guys went crazy because he hit this piece of paper dead center too. It was pretty.
Well, you guys met at a shooting range, so I'm guessing his, eye coordination is just amazing. So, Richard, we the fans know how much Zack and yourself and your whole team loves DC and DC characters. What were your thoughts on the initial reaction of the general public and critics to Man of Steel and BVS?
Um, I was disappointed. Um, some things I can understand because Zach's telling a story, and
Hmm.
he's not going to let the cat out of the bag right away. He's
Right,
going to build. He's going to build the story.
right.
And audiences, a lot of times audiences are they're not very patient. They um, they want things right away, and so I could kind of understand what was going on,
Hmm.
but yeah, I was disappointed. I thought that both of those movies are much better than the credit that the critics gave them. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how some of the critics tore, some of those movies down. I guess I don't know what the ratings difference were. I guess they like Man of Steel a little more than BVS, but I'm not 100% sure. But they're both really good movies, and it was disappointing. I felt bad because when we do this, we're putting our heart and soul into this. Movie making is it's not the hardest job in the world. Um, I can't compare my job to somebody who has to go out and do manual labor, has to go out and dig ditches,
Right.
or chop down trees or build houses. Like, they have a very, very tough job. So I'm not going to compare my job to those people.
Right.
But, there's a lot of pressure because what we put out there is forever.
Right.
When we're long gone, our grandchildren and their children will,
It's your
will
legacy.
possibly
It's there.
watch. Yeah, so we take it very, very seriously. So we work really hard. We work long hours. It's not like it's not crazy to work a 16-hour day in films. We do it. And so we put everything we have into it. Everybody's professionals in that industry. If you're not, then you won't work. You won't work very much if you're not a professional and you're not trying to give everything you have to make the best product that you possibly can. So I was disappointed. you
Yeah,
know
because
um
it makes sense. Because, like, if you see Jackie Chan's career, he almost broke every bone in his body just to give it the best he can, to give the audience the best he himself can do. So it completely
right,
makes sense when you say that when your team and everyone behind, from the lighting department, from the sound department to everyone, you're giving it your all because you want it to represent you and your team the best it can possibly be. And as you said, it will live on forever even after you're gone.
yeah. And what was a saving grace for me is I was disappointed that the critics didn't like it because I thought they were both great movies, but the fans liked the movies a lot more than the critics did.
Well, I can
you know
honestly tell you, shout out to Geek Myth. It's our local geek community, and my friend Gibran Tanvir. We went and saw BVS here in Bangladesh opening day in Star Cineplex. And prior to that, I'll tell you that I was never a Superman fan. I have to admit, I was never a Superman fan until I saw Man of Steel. And that movie, when I saw it, I was like, Superman is the greatest hero ever. This is the first time I'm seeing him have human emotions and reacting to
Mm,
the world as one of us, not as just a super being
yeah,
who just wears red tights, flies around, saves a cat from a tree. He's a genuine, he's a son. He's an adopted son, and he has foster parents, and everything that Zack showed in Man of Steel. It just hit a chord inside of me like no other Superman media ever did before. And along with I think it was 2013 Comic Con when Zack brought up Harry Lennox, and I saw a bootleg version of that video when he announced, like, my hand at your throat. I think I was crying when I saw
mm,
that reveal. And I can honestly tell you, on the opening day, the theatrical cut for BVS, in the hall that we went to, it was all of us DC fans. And from the very first beat of the movie, from the beautiful lie sequence all the way till the end. And we were just emotional. We were happy. We were like, just sending positive vibes and love towards this movie, towards Zack, because we couldn't even fathom in the 20 odd years of our lives or 30 odd years of our lives that we'd live to see a movie that visually represents everything that is authentic to the original source. And for us, the fans, it was like, oh my God, this movie is made for us. And every scene, I mean, I remember we were, the whole row that we were sitting in, we were like 20, 25 people. We were just bawling and crying, and the Martha moment just broke us. We're like, oh my God, we knew the names. Why didn't we put it together? We say it all the time. So it was just amazing, and I can't express how much that movie has affected me, my friends, and you can see the community all together. So how much we appreciate you, Zack, Debbie, Damon, Larry Fong, Jay Oliva, everyone who has given us this beautiful masterpiece. So I know you're probably under an NDA, but when you saw the theatrical cut of Justice League, what were your thoughts? And if you can share some insight on the difficulty you all faced while filming Justice League.
Well, I mean, I didn't even have to see the film. I was there, of course, while it was being filmed. It wasn't a normal Zack set. He was under a lot of pressure from the studio. He's trying to get as much of his vision for what he wanted to do in the Justice League movies. He was trying to get that on screen, and there was just studio wanted some things, he wanted some things, and it was just a really, really tough time. And like I said, I know it because I know Zack, and I could see that I think that film aged him a little bit. He looked really tired, and it was really rough on him because of everything he was going through. That's why it was so nice on Army. It was back to normal. Things were great.
To his old self.
Yeah, he looked great, and he looked great again, and everything. But I could just see how stressed he was. And like I said, true to form, Zack didn't take it out on anyone. He was very, very professional, always very nice, and still cracking jokes, and you would never know it, But that was just a rough film to work on, and yeah, I mean, you're right. I can't say a lot about it, but and I know, I know Joss has been taking a lot of heat,
especially now with the actors and everybody from his career coming out on his toxic behavior. So I don't know. I mean, let's see what happens, because we stand with the people that he has mistreated. So let's see what the verdict comes out later on, but we stand with the people who have been abused.
Right. And I'm sure, everyone appreciates that feels that way. He was under a lot of pressure too. I mean, I get it. It's just that he just didn't handle it, in my opinion, as well as Zack did.
Right.
But, he's a completely different director than Zack.
Of course, they have completely different approach, different, beats and everything. It's like, Mozart and, Beethoven. It's like, it's completely different, So, so speaking more on the movie, like did you see the theatrical cut when it came out, or?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So, what can you tell me as a viewer? Like, what did you think of the movie?
Well, I wish we could. My first thought was I wish Zack was able to make what he wanted, his cut, and have that be released. That was really the first thing that came to my mind. I didn't feel like I hated the movie, but I know what it could have been. And my first thought was just disappointment that Zack wasn't able to show what the film that he wanted, so I was just disappointed. I was disappointed for him, because I know he wanted it a certain way, the studio wanted it a certain way, and You know,
it's completely
that's just
understandable.
that's just the way it is, sometime in movie making,
Yeah, I mean, throughout history, I mean, look at the Richard Donner cut. Look at so many. I mean, even Prometheus 2, which was Ridley Scott didn't even get to do the version that he wanted to do because the studio
Mhm.
reacted the way they did. And even with the Predator franchise, one of my favorite franchise, even Shane Black wasn't able to make the movie that he wanted to make. So yeah,
Right.
so it happens. It's a business. We understand now that at the end of the day, like, these companies or these corporates like Disney, Warner Brothers, or Sony, they're not seeing it from an artistic point of view or from a creative point of view. They're just seeing it as a business, like any other
Right.
business. Like I'm in the textile business, and I work in denim, so I completely understand where the executives they're coming from. But at the same time, you know it's such a sensitive medium that you can't just have it one way. You have to work with the people that you've hired to represent your IPs the way it's going on. So when did you first hear about the Release the Snyder Cut movement, and how did you and your fellow team and co-workers feel about that?
Um, I'm trying to remember when I first heard about it. I mean, I'm on Instagram a lot.
Right.
So I think I probably heard it there. So I think I probably heard it right when it was first coming out.
Right.
And it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, I'm glad that that Zack has these faithful fans and other people, that feel that his vision should be released and he should that should happen. But honestly, I didn't really take it super seriously because I've seen stuff like similar to that happen before.
Of course, of course.
So I was like, yeah, this is great. This is really nice that this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really take it seriously. Then it just continued to snowball, and it just continued to grow and
Mm-hmm.
grow and grow. And then when it came a point where they had that one day where, select, they're saying
I
Snyder
didn't
Cut.
sleep 24 hours for that day.
Yeah, and it's like on billboards and it's on the side of buildings in Los Angeles. It's like, whoa, this is like caught fire. Like this is really big now. And
Mm-hmm.
it obviously was. It caught AT&T's attention. So
Oh yes, I mean it's yeah. We kind of harassed them a little to
yeah.
get where we are today, but
Hey, and it worked because I'll tell you, I think it's one of the biggest. Of course, Zach's working he wanted to have it released as well, of course, but
Mhm.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons is really the fans. I really do. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that this happens without the fans, and their dedication to it. I'm really not sure it would happen.
Like initially when I was part of the like the initial startup of it, like we were looking at the previous instances of such things happening, like the Donner Cut, and that happened after 22 years. So we had the idea that all right, we're in on this for 10 years. All right, we're going in for 10 years hard. Even if it takes 10 years, we're going to get this movie. Like that's how dedicated we were, and that's how much we were into it. And and we tried our best. Like I said, I'm from Bangladesh, so the currency exchange is, it's bad. So I tried my best, and everyone from all over the world, like every single one of us, we wanted to bring Zach's vision and all the hard work that you all did, and every one of you, like from you yourself to your team, to Fabian Wagner, to Larry Fong, to Jay Oliva, to Zach, and you, like, even without saying much, with just some winks and hints, you guys helped keep the fire lit. Like, it just invigorated us to go harder and better, for getting the Zach's vision released. So
Hmm.
now that after 3 years of struggle, we're finally getting Zack Snyder's 100% uncompromised vision of Justice League. When did you hear about its release? Because I'm pretty sure you heard it before any one of us did. And how did you and your team who worked so hard on it feel?
Okay, first I want to correct you because it's not Zack Snyder's 100% uncompromised vision.
Oh.
That was never filmed.
Oh. Okay. The one
Zack
he
had
talked about in the Snyder Con.
Yeah, Zack had a vision that it was the a lot of that was never filmed. The way he initially wanted it to go,
Right.
he had to change things, and then they changed more, and then they changed more, and then they changed more. But his original vision, it just was never done.
Right.
So he had to compromise, and change his vision up a little bit.
Right.
And now that's what we're going to see. We're actually going to see, I guess you would call it his second, his vision after it was compromised.
Right. Because of
studio.
a lot of
So that's
studio
what
interference. Right. But when you heard that it was going to be announced, how did you feel?
Oh, I was really happy, especially when I found out that Zack got all the actors to sign in for it, and they're up for it, and everybody agreed to it. All the major actors. That was really, really exciting, because they all have they have
they
other
have their
things,
careers and their personal lives, and we're going through a very critical situation with the world nowadays. So yeah.
Right. So it was really cool to hear that. I was really excited, and of course everybody that worked on it's really happy about that. We're really looking forward to seeing it, and I don't know if he needs me for anything. I know a lot of people have asked me that on social media, and I haven't heard anything, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm needed or not. Right. I don't know how much shooting he's actually going to do. I know there's a lot of visual effects and stuff, and but I'm sure there's some shooting, but I honestly don't know how much. Right. It is really exciting. I'm just really looking forward to to seeing his version, and I'm just like everybody else is.
Right. Recently, in a Screen Rant article, they were talking about Ben Affleck's Batman and the level of physique he went to, and I think they used a quote that you mentioned, that even with the suit and everything, Ben Affleck, the amount of dedication he put in becoming Batman, he even became in terms of mass, like a muscle mass, even bigger than you, and you yourself are pretty built pretty good.
Yeah, Ben worked really hard. He had his own trainer he worked with that that really pushed him and got his body in really great shape. But the truth is, he's naturally a bigger guy than I am. We're both 6'3", right? So we're both the same height. Right. But I walk around naturally. I can get heavier. Like I think Army, I got up to 210, but naturally I'm around 200 pounds. Ben probably, I'm guessing, walks around at about 230, 235. Wow. So he's just naturally a bigger guy than I am. I mean, that's why he's the perfect choice for Batman. Physically, there was never been a better choice for Batman. And my personal, of course, I'm biased, but it's the best Batman we've ever had.
Oh, no, he is. I can assure you, sir, that he is the greatest Batman we have seen on screen, and I'll take anyone on this debate. Anyone, I have my Snyder Cut Spartan brothers and sisters with me, so I'm not afraid. So as we get closer to JusticeCon and DC fandom, any small teaser you can give us what to look forward to in Zack Snyder's Justice League? I
can't. I'm sorry, and honestly, I only know a few things, and I can't. That's not for me to share. It's for Zack to share. If he chooses to share them, then he will. But it's not for me to share. But to be honest, completely honest with you, I don't know everything. I don't know everything that he's going to put into the film. I know there's things I do know, but I'm sure there'll be things in there that'll surprise me. Right. But hopefully, he has a little teaser for everyone. That'd be pretty cool.
Definitely. I mean, in terms of what you said about his uncompromised vision, Zack recently in one of his Vero posts, he answered one of the fans, and one of the fans asked, what's the difference between the 214 cut and this version? And then Zack replied that the one that was meant to come out in 2017 was a compromised vision, and the one we're getting now, hopefully next year, will be, as he said, 100% uncompromised. So that's where I, got my
Yeah, I
information. So I
think
guess,
I,
but
I'm.
as such, he mentioned in the Snyder Con, because he had to change his plans, it's still,
Mhm.
it's still his vision, but not the vision, as you're saying.
Right. And what I think what he's saying there, and I don't want to speak for Zach,
Mm-hmm.
but once his original vision was changed, once his original ideas that that I had heard about when we were doing BVS,
Mm-hmm.
once those had changed,
Mm-hmm.
then he had then he had another vision of what it's going to be. Now that vision was compromised. So
Mm.
when I think when he answered that question, he's saying, no, the vision that I had, you're going to see it uncompromised. And I think that's what he meant,
Right.
because he can't really talk about things that he didn't shoot, right?
Right.
You know, he didn't shoot. There's things that he didn't, that he never shot, that
Mm-hmm.
that just weren't going to be shot, that were original ideas that he had.
Right.
So I think he's strictly talking about, a couple things maybe that he has to shoot yet, and then things that already were shot that we didn't see in the theatrical release.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
and of course, and I'm sure they're going to have to do visual effects and stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of visual effects to do.
Right. Speaking of Army of the Dead, I'm guessing this is one of the first times that you are actually playing one of the POV characters. It's safe to say that.
POV characters.
In the sense, like you're not just as a stunt performer, you're actually as an actor in Army of the Dead, right?
I guess you would quantify me as an actor in that film. Yeah,
Right. So what
but
what
I did stunts as well. So
Oh, of course, of course, of course. It's like you can, yeah, of course, you're talented enough to do both. So, how, like, in terms from, coming from Dawn of the Dead, and that movie has been made, a couple of years ago with Army. How has the process changed, like from before to now? Like you worked in Dawn of the Dead, and now you've also worked in Army of the Dead. Like, how has the process, evolved, changed, from then to now?
I don't know if the process has changed really so much. The characters are different.
Mm-hmm.
The story, of course, is different. It's a different movie. It has that same
Mm-hmm.
zombie genre, of course.
Of course.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a different movie. But as far as the process goes, I don't think the whole process has really changed all that much. It's just it's a different movie, really.
How was it like working on Army of the Dead? Like you mentioned a little bit that while you guys got back together for Army of the Dead, Zack had become back to his old self. So throughout the whole process, throughout Army of the Dead, what was your personal experience? Throughout the whole thing.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was one of the toughest jobs I've ever done, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very tough, very physical job. But it was awesome. I mean, I feel Zack's crew, a lot of these people have been with him for many films now, and we've all known each other, and so it's almost like a movie family.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I'm doing with Zack and Damon and our team, that Damon's stunt team,
Mm-hmm.
the crew members, I'm always going to enjoy it, because it's just how it is. It's more fun to say go to the movies or play sports with your friends than it is with a perfect stranger, right?
Right.
So it's just much more of an enjoyable process. I mean, I had a great time. I mean, I can't really. I wish I could tell you
Mm-hmm.
specific things and about my character and stuff like that, but of course I can't.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it. It was really great. And like I said, coming off of JL to come back and do something where it just feels like old times again. Everybody could feel that, and I think everybody enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. And recently, you worked in with I think Extraction. I think that's the movie starring Chris Hemsworth, right?
I didn't work on the movie, but I did work on we have something called, it was rehearsals, right?
Right.
And it's something called previs that we shoot.
Right. Right.
And that's basically shooting the action, shooting all the action for the film.
Right.
So the director can see it and see what he likes, see what he wants to change. And,
Mm-hmm.
so I did that. I think it was about 4 weeks. I think I did a previs, and I doubled, I didn't double him in the movie, but I doubled him for the previs, the lead actor.
Right. Right.
Um, so, yeah, it was cool. And it's a great group. The director, Sam Hargrave, is a super talented guy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another guy that comes out of stunts, comes out of a martial arts background, and that was his first film directing, but it certainly won't be his last.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really talented guy, and that was cool. That was fun.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's undeniable that the extractions, the action sequences, and set pieces are amazing. I mean, the only thing that kind of turned off, like, actual Bangladeshi people living in Dhaka is the way our country was portrayed. But other than that, yeah, it was genuinely an enjoyable movie. Well, with that, I say is a great way to close the show. Thank you so much, Richard, for the time and patience you have given me and my little show. I just want you to know how much the Bangladeshi and the DCU fans worldwide appreciate you and your team. Like we can't even begin to express how much gratitude we feel towards you and everybody who works so hard to give us, the movie magic that we look forward to every time a movie or a franchise, especially with the DCEU and Batman and Superman and Man of Steel, everything that you have done. So, we're just sending love and positivity towards you and your team. And I hope you will please stay safe, and hopefully we get to see more of your work in days to come. And any last thoughts for our viewers here?
I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all your viewers for their dedication to Zack and his films. I'm sure he very much appreciates it, sincerely. That's the kind of guy he is. And I want to thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed it, and it was cool, and I appreciate all your kind words. And anytime you want me to come back, let me know. I'd be happy to do it.
Oh my God, that means so much, Richard. Thank you very much. So with that, ladies and gentlemen,